Hi guys and welcome back to WePC. Today we're going to be looking at Asus's VG279QM. They're classing it as the world's fastest gaming monitor. It's got a 280Hz refresh rate, a 1ms grey-to-grey response time. We're going to be putting through all the usual tests, including gaming, colour uniformity, colour to accuracy, all that sort of stuff, so let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into any of the gaming performance, we're just going to quickly look at the design. It's a pretty basic design in comparison to their ROG Strix lineup. That being said, it is a little bit more gamey than just your generic office monitor. It's got a nice red trim around the bottom. Back looks pretty cool. It's got the tough branding on the back. It's got some nice etchings there. So it does look like a game monitor, but not as much as, say, any of the ROG Strix lineup. They've sort of found a nice middle ground between super boring and super gamey. So for me, the design is very good. The stand is super functional, but we'll get over that later. Bezels are pretty thin, 10mm on the top and sides, and the bottom is 14mm. It has got quite a thick border, you can see there. Doesn't really take anything away from the root viewing experience, but there are a lot of monitors these days that sort of market themselves as borderless. I think I probably prefer the borderless, but that being said, it's got a nice finish, albeit plastic. Looking at the inputs quickly, this monitor has two HDMI 2.0s, it's got a DisplayPort 1.2, and it's got a 3.5mm audio jack as well. This monitor does come with a inbuilt speaker. It's not the best in the world. I'd probably only stretch to use it, maybe for notifications, email, pop-ups, that sort of thing. You wouldn't want to say listen to a TV program or listen to music or something like that, because they are pretty rubbish. There is a cable management routing system in this thing, which goes through the middle of the stand. It's got like a nice little clip on back, so that's always useful. Yeah, lastly, the power cable is a power brick, which is a little bit annoying. It is on the smaller side, to give credit to Asus, but it's still there and it's still a bit awkward. If you like to dangle your cables down the back of a desk or something, it's just there swinging around. It's not my favourite thing in the world, but also not the worst I've ever seen, so yeah. Okay, so we've loaded up my go-to game when it comes to testing anything. Counter-Strike. We're just quickly going to go over some of the functionality of the stand briefly. You do get an absolute ton of functionality with this thing. It's got a full 90 degrees left and right swivel. You've got plenty of tilt swivel as well, much more than other monitors that I've tried at pretty much any price range. Asus are always really good with the stand. They always accommodate you with a really good stand that has a lot of functionality, so it doesn't really surprise me that this one also offers the same. Loads of height there as well. You really can find the perfect viewing position with the stand. Even if you wanted to, you could sort of swivel it 90 degrees either direction. Bit awkward because I've got the keyboard there, but I mean, you can't really play at this angle, but it's there if you do want to use it. Great for sort of Twitch feeds, things like that. So yeah, super functional, very good stand. Can't really knock it. Actually, take that back. It is a little bit on the wobbly side, which is a bit unusual really for Asus, because the stands are normally really quite comprehensive in every aspect, but for some reason this one's just not the best. I don't know, maybe it's just one we received, but I have tightened it up and it's still a little bit flimsy, so yeah, that's the only downside to that really. Quickly looking at the bezels again. I said previously that they were on the thin side, but they do have quite a thick border that could potentially take something away from the gaming experience. Yeah, they're fine. I've definitely seen worse. Bezels are all pretty much the same these days. On modern monitors, you don't really find anything dead chunky like you used to on like the old CRTs, for example. They're all quite nice and flush, and your main focus is the screen at the end of the day. I'm not looking at the bezels when I'm gaming, so yeah, not too worried about the bezels at all. Okay, so just taking a quick look at the panel coating. As always with modern monitors, this is an anti-glare with 3H hardness. That's pretty standard these days. Does a very good job of mitigating light, whether it's a natural source or, I don't know, like quite a powerful light that you've got in your bedroom. Because the monitor is flat as well, if you do have any issues with reflections and things like that, you can just sort of turn it and that'll pretty much rectify that issue. So panel coating is pretty good, but It's not like a standout feature because it is pretty standard these days. Like always, we have gone to the trouble of putting this monitor through a bunch of colour accuracy tests, panel uniformity tests, using our display cal. We're going to pop the results on screen now and have a look and see how this one performed. Okay, so for the purposes of this test, we used sRGB mode, which is the one that I would probably recommend for most people who are looking to purchase this monitor and they don't have a colorimeter at home. The sRGB mode does give pretty good colours, but not the best in the world, especially when you consider it that it is an IPS panel that it's using. White point was a little bit high, just over 7,000 kelvins. You're looking for 6,500 kelvins really, so that is a little bit high. Measured black luminance, that was quite low, not as low as a VA panel, but still pretty good for an IPS. It was 0.1. Contrast was to be expected, not the best in the world. Contrast basically measures the deepest darks and the highest brights and then gives you a sort of range of that distance. 1,110, let's say, to 1, which, yeah, it's not the best in the world, but again, considering this is a all and out gaming monitor, you're probably not that concerned about the contrast or the colours, to be completely honest. Okay, so we are just looking at sRGB for the purposes of this video. I did go and test all the different settings, including a calibrated mode, out of the box, warm, cool, all those different settings and presets with the monitor. We did a accuracy test and they're all over on the website if you want to go and check those out. Okay, so next up we're going to do a panel uniformity test. That's where we take a reference square in the centre and then we test every other square around it to see how it fares in terms of brightness and colour accuracy. This particular panel was pretty good. I was expecting to see more amber, which is a great deviation from the centre square, but most of the squares are green, which means it's pretty good. All the corners bar one is green with a contrast deviation of under 2%, which is very good. Some of the other areas, a little bit weird that there's just this like one band, but I mean, it's the panel lottery at the end of the day. You've got to take these results with a little pinch of salt because chances are the monitor you get is going to differ from these results. But it's a good indication of what this monitor can offer you as a consumer. For me, it was very good. And yeah, there was no obvious sort of bright spots which are going to take anything away from your viewing experience. Okay, so to give you a better idea of the difference that, say, a 280 hertz monitor makes. So we've got a 144 hertz monitor here. Looking at them side by side, you can see a bit of a difference. It's not huge, but it is certainly there. If I'm being completely honest, unless you're playing esports games to the absolute highest level, you're probably not going to see a massive difference or get a huge benefit out of this feature. There is a little bit more blur on the 144 hertz monitor, but overall the difference isn't massive, to be fair. So whilst 280 hertz is better, it's not a huge difference. Okay, so we're going to quickly jump and look through the on-screen display. As always with Asus monitors, they've opted for the little joystick directional menu toggle system at the back, which I really enjoy. It's also got 3 quick access buttons there that you can set as well to your personal preference, and obviously you've got your power button at the bottom. On-screen display is extremely easy to use. I really like what Asus have done there. You've still got companies like BenQ that want to use the buttons underneath, which is like unraveling the mysteries of the universe, just trying to get through the on-screen display. Much easier just using the joystick up and down to navigate through. If you find something you want to alter, just press right, back is go left. Really easy. Going into a bit more detail about what the on-screen display actually offers, Asus have got a really comprehensive gaming sort of section on their monitors these days. With this specific panel, if you do want to utilise the full 280 hertz that it offers, you do have to overclock it. Not hard. It's not like you're overclocking a CPU or something. You literally just go to the overclocking setting, click on, you can go to maximum refresh rate and you can change it from 270 or 280. Natively, this is at 240 hertz. So you do have to do this if you want to get 280 hertz out of the box. You do have to come in here and do that, but it's dead easy. You've also got settings like overdrive. Obviously, you've got your adaptive sync. You've got ELMB sync as well. That's the way that you can use backlight strobing and still have adaptive sync working at the same time. So that's a very good feature to have, and not something that monitors always offer. So just be aware of that. That is quite unique, especially for a monitor of this sort of price range. You've got all your usual stuff in the Game Plus, which is like an on-screen crosshair. You've got timers there, FPS counter, all that sort of thing. That's pretty standard. Your game visual, that's your colour preset. We've got it in racing mode right now. I'll flick it through to sRGB so you can have a little look. Doesn't make a huge difference. Some of them are quite aggressive in terms of the colour changes. You can see there, going from cinema to RTS is a huge difference. So if you do have a preference or like a unique style that you actually enjoy viewing, you can flick through these and find something that suits your needs. I know MOBA's pretty aggressive. I just stick it on sRGB because it's the more natural look, to be honest. But there are options there. Lastly, you've got shadow boost as well, which does pretty much what it says on the tin. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's just boosting the brightness up. It's great for competitive gamers because if you want to get the edge over the competition and there's a particularly dark map, you can just boost the brightness up in those areas. So it's always a very good feature to have. One of the big questions we get asked regularly around here when regarding faster refresh rate panels is how much of a difference does it make, say going from 60 Hz to 144 Hz, 240 Hz, so on and so forth. Because this is at the higher end of the spectrum, you do get a good idea of the differences that it does make. Going from 60 Hz to 144 Hz is like night and day. You can literally tell the difference, and it makes a real difference to your gameplay. I reckon you could literally go from making 2 or 3 frags a game, going to 144 Hz from 60 and at least tripling that. It makes a huge difference to gameplay. Now, take the same scenario with 144 Hz to 240 Hz and the change is nowhere near as dramatic. You can see a little bit of a difference if you do if you do a Blur Busters test, for example, and you pay real close attention, you will notice that there is a slight difference there. The alien becomes a little bit clearer, especially when you're following it with your eyes, but overall, it's nowhere near as dramatic, like I said, as 60 to 144 Hz. Going from 244 to then 240 to 280 is, again, a diminishing return on how much benefit you actually see from it. You do see the difference, but for me, once you get past 144 Hz, there's not a massive amount of difference to be found there. What I'm trying to say is, unless you're playing at the very highest level of the game, sort of professional level, you're not really going to find a benefit from going from 144 to 280, regardless of what the marketing says. That's pretty standard. Okay, so one thing that I will say is that when you're using overdrive, which is a very handy feature to have, when you go over 60 with this monitor, you do start to get a bit of overshoot, which is it's basically inverse ghosting. So instead of there being a sort of ghostly trail behind the moving figure, because the monitor is trying to counterbalance that and trying to correct that issue, going over 60 then moves that to the front there. So basically what I'm trying to say is, once you go over 60 on the overdrive, you do start to experience inverse ghosting. So for me, the sweet spot is 60 there, but obviously just test it with your panel specifically and you might have different results, but that's what our tests have shown so far. One of the big pros on this monitor is the backlight bleed. I don't know if it's picking up very well on the camera, but hardly any of the backlight comes through, as you can see on the test. There might be a little bit towards the bottom left corner, but apart from that, it's very good. Yeah, I was happy with the backlight bleed. Done a good job there. So overall, I was pretty impressed with the Asus VG279QM. The refresh rate was very good, response time was decent, not the best in the world. I did see a little bit of ghosting during games, but you do have all those settings in the on-screen display that we showed you earlier to sort of try and counterbalance that. You just need to find the right mix of what works and what doesn't work for you. Overall, do I think it's a good gaming monitor? Yeah, very good. If you're into playing games that are very fast-paced, competitive, kind of like Counter-Strike, this monitor is going to serve you very well. Overall, super happy with it, really. Can't really knock it, to be honest. So guys, there you have it, our full review of the Asus VG279QM, Asus's fastest game monitor in the world. If you like this video, remember to drop us a like in the description below. You can also leave us a comment if you've got any questions regarding the monitor, functionality, any of the settings that we use, anything like that. We're happy to answer all of those. If you want to see more videos like this, there's some dotted around somewhere. Over there, I keep getting told to look that way. The videos are there. Don't say left. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.